Hello and welcome back to AusBiz. This is the Global View. I'm Andrew Gagan. Good to have you with us again on this Friday. Let's get across what happened overnight. A relief rally, seeing global equity markets gain after President Trump ruled out seizing Greenland by force and dropped tariff threats against European countries. The easing of geopolitical tensions also boosted Wall Street's major indices, with investors also encouraged by revised US economic growth figures. And the small cap Russell 2000 rising to a record high, while the SIBO volatility index slid some 15 points, having hit a 2-month peak earlier in the week. Now, investors are focused on earnings, with many of the mega cap tech stocks set to report results next week, which will indicate whether current valuations are justified. Among those leading gains in Thursday's session were Meta, along with Alphabet and Apple. Intel forecasts first quarter revenue and profit below market estimates as it struggles to match supply to booming demand for traditional server chips used in AI data centers. Its shares slumping around 5% in the extended session. Tesla rose after Chief Executive Elon Musk addressed the World Economic Forum in Davos, where he said the company will probably be selling its Optimus humanoid robots to the public sometime next year. GE Aerospace slipped despite forecasting its annual profit above estimates. Abbott shares tumbled after the medical device maker forecast current quarter profit below expectations. Procter & Gamble gained following quarterly results. And US-listed shares of Alibaba rose on reports the Chinese e-commerce firm is preparing to list its chipmaking arm, T-Head. Well, President Trump claims he secured total and permanent US access to Greenland in a deal with NATO, whose head said allies will have to step up their commitment to Arctic security to ward off threats from Russia and China. However, the details of any agreement were unclear, and Denmark has insisted its sovereignty over the island is not up for discussion. The framework also calls for prohibiting Chinese and Russian investments in Greenland. Well, revisions to US third quarter GDP showed an annualised growth rate of 4.4%, confirming that economic activity is accelerating. Weekly jobless claims were lower than expected, while November personal income was slightly stronger than expected at 0.5%, while spending was in line at 0.5%. The core PCE price index rising 0.2% month on month for an annualised rate of 2.8%. US Treasury yields rose as investors prepared for further volatility and awaited clarity on that Greenland framework. Well, the yield on the 10-year in the US was at 4.25%, the 2-year close to 3.62%. And the US dollar index down around 0.5% on the day, the Aussie climbing to 68.4, up more than 1%. That's following those stronger than expected jobs data that we got yesterday. Well, oil prices have slid to a 1-week low as US threats towards Greenland and Iran dissipated. Brent futures down close to 2% to settle at $64 a barrel. Gold has surged past $4,900 an ounce for the first time, powered by ongoing geopolitical tensions, a softer US dollar, and expectations of Federal Reserve interest rate cuts. So spot gold up around 2% overnight to around $4,920 an ounce. And silver and platinum prices also hitting fresh record highs. And Bitcoin remains below $90,000. Let's get across those market moves. Brad Gastwirth joining us from Circular Technology. Brad, welcome back. So, geopolitics, do you feel as though the market's comfortable where we're at the moment? Because, I mean, there's been so much volatility, courtesy of Donald Trump. Can we focus on other things now, do you think?
Yeah, I'd like to think so, Andrew. I guess, everything is sort of fair game right now. And, who knows what will happen next week with the administration. So I think we can't rule out anything. I would hope that some of the most aggressive tactics are away from us now. But, we will remain to be seen if the geopolitical side actually has issues with the market. I think right now the market's going to be fully focused on earnings season.
All right, well, let's talk earnings season then. Some big names due to report next week. Now, this is going to be critical, don't you think, just in terms of particularly that spending that we've seen, that CapEx spending on AI. What are you looking for?
Yeah, I think so Intel led it off tonight on the technology side, and they definitely made comments about a shorter and tightened supply, which hampered their Q1 guidance. I think supply shortages will be a theme that most people will talk about, or most companies will talk about this earnings season. I think memory has been incredibly tight. I think a lot of the cloud service providers have, the need to acquire more memory product. I think if you look at, large enterprises, they're building out infrastructure. I think there's generally going to be a very positive tone for AI demand. I think AI demand is real. I think that trend will continue throughout this year. The biggest question, will there be supply hiccups that will, offset some of the stronger guidance that these companies can or would have had if they had the total supply they needed?
So, I mean, it comes back to perhaps investors being concerned about that AI bubble as such. But Brad, are you of the opinion then that particularly those hyperscalers are treating AI as core infrastructure? We talk about that spending there, but you're saying it's not just one company. It's spread right across different sectors there.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at AI spend, I mean, it's a need to have, not a nice to have. And I think this is, we've now really entered the beginning phases of, stronger build outs because it's becoming productized. So I think enterprises must invest in AI if they want to be competitive. Sovereign governments look at AI as a need, that they need to have this investment. And, if you look at the hyperscalers, they need to build it out because demand has been so great. So I think we're still in the very early innings. I think we're still going to see explosion of growth from AI. And I think there's definitely going to be positive commentary across demand. And even Intel with the weaker guidance, and they have their own issues, but they did talk about their server CPUs outselling what they were able to, supply. So I think overall the commentary around AI and the build out is going to be very strong this earnings season.
Brad, are there any particular companies you're going to be focused on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very focused on the supply chain right now because there's many areas that are incredibly tight. So if I look in, all the way from wafers and wafer capacity, I think TSM already had some solid numbers. But if you look and you pull that onion back a little bit, I like looking at memory. I think memory companies and Micron has an off quarter, ticker MU, but they're gonna have incredible numbers. I mean, memory prices are up 50% plus for the last 2 quarters. I think you're going to see extremely strong numbers coming from Micron. SanDisk on the memory side, on the NAND side, ESSD, so enterprise solid state drives are incredibly strong as well. And I think we're just at the beginning of that inflection where I think demand really boosts in the second half of this year. So I think memory companies are going to have incredible numbers. Broadcom, is going to do incredibly well. Nvidia still will have positive things. I think really it's the mega caps are all going to have very positive things to say.
Brad, did you catch any of what Elon Musk had to say at Davos? I was just mentioning there, obviously, a lot of speculation about when that Optimus robotic humanoid robots are going to enter the market. What did you hear there?
Yeah, I mean, I did listen. I heard that he said he might be an alien, but
Right.
in terms of Optimus, yeah, I think he said next year. Generally, he's hoping to go to market with Optimus, that those products will be available. Those robots, I mean, at CES this year, I mean, robots were a very strong theme, and I do think you're going to see more humanoid robots available. Is it going to be widespread in 2026? Absolutely not. I still think we're a few years from, when we get some, serious adoption, but there will be some leading edge companies that will have their first, products out at the end of this year, where they will be available. So I think you're going to start to see some of these humanoid robots, but no means are they going to be widespread this year or even probably next year.
Now, Brad, wouldn't be a conversation with you without talking about precious metals. I know you remain constructive in that space. Nonetheless, record prices yet again, gold, silver, platinum. Goodness gracious. I mean, gold is pushing at a pace towards 5,000 US dollars. Do you have any concerns that this is overdone?
Um, well, first, I don't think anything goes straight up without returning a little bit. So I think we're going to see a little retraction at some time in the near term, just because we've had an incredible move. That being said, I still am very positive on gold and precious metals. And, I've been saying that on this program that we're expecting new highs, for the last few years now, and it keeps on going. So I do think it's going to continue. I think if you look at reserve currencies across the globe, they're increasing gold. If you look at other places, I think you're seeing that gold is used as a nice hedge across, many different investments. And I think if you look at geopolitical and other macro, it's one of the safest asset classes. So universally recognized globally, and I still think there's strong demand for gold here.
All right. And on the flip side, what are you seeing with Bitcoin at the moment? It's, as I mentioned, they're struggling to get back above 90,000. Obviously, this is part of that risk off that investors are trading at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bitcoin. There's a big debate still on, is it a real currency? I mean, what's the value? I mean, the problem with when you look at currencies to really be, significant, you have to have stability. I mean, you can't be worth, a Maserati one day and a Ford the next. So, I mean, ultimately, you need to have real stability to be a constant currency on a global basis. Now, is there a place for crypto? Absolutely. And I think there's a need. I'm not that bullish at these levels. I think there's probably some more cross currents coming. I think the one thing that most people don't recognize is that if you do have a significant stake, it's very difficult to sell your stake. It takes a very long time. You're capped at how much you can sell. So people who made a lot of money on the crypto side, they're still trying to sell it. It takes a long time. So that's something that most people don't talk about, but will likely put some overhang on Bitcoin and others in the near future.
Brad, great to catch up. Thanks for joining us on Circular Technology.
Thanks, Andrew.
Let's return to the local market, what we're expecting when we get underway in just a couple of minutes' time. A slightly negative start. ASX futures down around 8 points. We'll get a bit of some company updates, including Alcoa out today. We've just had global PMIs. We'll get across that with Jingyi Pan from S&P Global a little later this morning as well. Join us for the open in just a couple of minutes.